Now you should be getting, you should be getting live notifications in just a second off YouTube. Oh God, I got to change all the stuff on YouTube and everything. Oh God. Yep. So we should be live, and I hope.
Live now?
Yep. I hope to dear God people can
Hello,
hear
Internet.
Yep. We'll see how this all works out. Okay, I've got one. How many different things am I going to have up?
Oh, now you're cracking again. You were good.
Hold
What
on.
happened?
I'll rewind it. It's okay.
It wasn't me. I knew it.
Shut
No,
up.
see, it got better.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Little bit of the old in and out.
Yeah. It could be me. It could suck. Just because sadly we have a lot going on with the weather today. So
The soundboard is weighing you down.
yeah. Ugh. You have no idea. I've got like the intros and then the screen on this side, and then I've got the live chat room on this side, and I'm like blah, 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 blah. So
You
I'm just
need more screens. That's all.
I have two. Are you proud of me? I
That's
have two
great.
screens.
Yeah.
I know. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna make this thing happen now.
Two screens is the bomb.
I actually can see where 3 would be very helpful,
Oh,
and I'm
you
like,
can't have too many.
well, we have an extra one that we might be hooking up because I'm just kind of like, ugh. But the thing is, at this point, I have shut out the entire living room. Like nobody can see me. I'm like in this like cove, and I'm like, sorry.
That's
Sorry,
where it
everybody.
starts.
Okay.
Does
All right,
anybody hear any echoes?
I hear a major echo right now.
You
Both
hear
both of us.
You both hear an echo from me?
I hear it when Imran's talking. I don't know. Do you hear it with me? Am I echoing?
Neither of you guys are echoing for me.
Phil's not echoing right now.
You're not. Nobody's echoing right
Okay.
now.
Oh,
But a
it's a
second ago, it was crazy.
It was a little bit.
All right, we'll work with it. Try to do the best you can. We'll see if we can get through it. Go ahead and mute your microphones, and we're gonna get started. All right.
How do I do? Oh,
Yeah, did you figure it out? Yep. I'm gonna lock the room too. Okie doke. That should be good. All right. And we're getting started in 3, 2. On today's show, we discuss Stan Lee, American comic book writer, editor, publisher, media producer, television host, actor, and former president and chairman of Marvel Comics. You think you may know him, but did you know he used to write with Dr. Seuss? Our own Cat in the Hat, Imran, is back on the drawing boards today, along with our marvelous Phil Rood. Stick around, because the show starts now. Well, welcome back to Sketching Comedy. I'm your host, Carrie Sims, along with the guys on the drawing boards, Mr. Imran Javed and Mr. Phil Rood. It's so great to have us all back together again. I've missed you too. Imran, I just want to say, first of all, congratulations on the nod on the HuffPo this past couple of weeks. We didn't really get to talk about it, so I wanted to say congratulations. Can you tell everybody right now basically what the Jock and Nerd podcast is all about?
Oh, absolutely. I love when people ask me that question. Thank you. It's very exciting. Our buddy, Eric Sharkey, a guy I went to art school with. He's a filmmaker. He's been on the show, and he also is a contributor for HuffPo. Just decided to throw our podcast up there in the list of top 10. But if you visit jockandnerd.com, listener, every week you're going to hear myself. I am the nerd. I'm not the jock. My co-host, Anthony, is the jock, and we also have a puppet named Rug Boy, and we geek out over comic book and superhero related news, movies, TV shows. You're going to get superhero and comic book geek news, reviews, and interviews every week. We just put out our Guardians of the Galaxy 2 review, and we've interviewed a bunch of producers, writers. We had an Emmy winner on, an Oscar winner, animators, artists, independent, and some of our friends have really interesting jobs. We get them on, so it's just a big, friendly, casual geek fest that everyone can enjoy on some level.
Yes.
JockandNerd.com for all that goodness.
Jack a Nerd. So yeah, definitely check that out. So thanks, Imran. It's great to have you back. I've missed the heck out of you. So
I missed you guys too.
Yeah. So hopefully after this, we're going to do Trivia Geek. So please stick around for that. And Phil, you've been kind of busy. Any shout outs before we get started?
Phil's got to unmute his mic first.
He never, this is like his thing. It's a trademark.
I want to give a shout out to my mute button on my microphone.
It works really well.
Never, ever lets me down. I actually want to give a shout out to my cat Django because my wife and I went out of town and we left him in charge of the kids. So it turns out he is the most responsible adult in the house.
Wow.
And
Nice.
it's really nice to be able to rely on somebody.
Screw the humans.
That's right.
Well, guys, we are live on YouTube, and you can also chat and interact with us live at the ircchatroom.net. Our room is # Blazing Caribou, so jump on in and come hang with us.
Damn, IRC, that's old school, man.
I know, but it's down here. You can come in, jump in. It's all good. Tonight we are talking about one of the most iconic comic book creators, Mr. Stan Martin Lieber, referred to more commonly as Stan Lee. He has been in collaboration with several artists, including Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko. He created Spider-Man, the Hulk, Doctor Strange, the Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Daredevil, Thor, the X-Men, you name it, he's done it, and a myriad of other fictional characters, while introducing a thoroughly shared universe into superhero comic books. He challenged the comics industry censorship, which I love, the Comics Code Authority, forcing it to reform its policies. Lee subsequently led the expansion of Marvel Comics from a small division of a publishing house to the large multimedia corporation you know today. So let's kind of get a little bit into the news. We got a little bit going on here. So today in the Quick Draw News, comic legend Stan Lee announces a new Latin superhero. This is kind of exciting. I mean, this guy is like, he's 94 years old, and he's like,
I know.
Let me start a new project.
Listen, Stan Lee survived 2016. I believe he is an immortal. I don't know.
Yeah, the only one that did, right?
Right? Yeah, him and Betty Davis, I think.
Yeah, that's right. And Betty White, too.
Yes, they're all made a deal with the devil many years ago, along with Keith Richards.
Yep. But he still is working on new characters. He announced on May 7th that fans can expect a Latin superhero by the end of the year. The creator of Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, and X-Men made the announcement in front of almost 20,000 fans at La Conque, the largest comic convention in Latin America, after being asked on May 7th as to what kind of hero Mexico would need to address its social problems. He said, and I quote, "I wanted this to be a surprise, but I'm personally working on a Latin hero that you'll be seeing by the end of the year. I want to make him as good as I can and as different as I can," Lee said. He took part in the 3 days of activities at the convention in central Mexico, signing autographs and taking photos with fans who had come from Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Venezuela, and as far away as Belgium. So what do you think? Have you heard anything about this, Imran?
No, I didn't. I know Stan is still creating, and he's got his whole Lee imprint. The Mexican comic book market is very interesting history in and of itself. A lot of guys cut their teeth working on the Mexican version of Marvel books for Marvel down in Mexico, and a lot of guys. There's a whole influx of a new generation of Latin American artists that grew up reading the Mexican version of Marvel and wanted to work for Marvel. So these Mexican books have always been kind of a novelty, but they're huge. Like, it is a huge market, and they've been around for years. So it's good to see Stan giving back, because they bought a lot of his books over the years.
I never even realized. I guess that makes me really ignorant, but I didn't even realize it could reach that way. I guess I would think it would just be rewritten in Spanish or whatever. But now how do they adapt them?
they're translated, but a lot of times they would be just original books for the Mexican market. And because you got to redo the header, Spider-Man becomes El Hombre Arachneo or whatever, and everything changes. So
Right.
it's pretty neat to see these guys, grow up reading this, and now some of them, there's amazing artists from Mexico.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, I like that he's kind of bringing it, he's bringing one more into the universe. And I think the one thing I do like about Marvel is the diversification. Like there's always there, and that's something Stan Lee, reading it this week he's always kind of done. He's always tried to make something a little bit different. And when I say make, I want to quote on that. But there's some controversy behind Stan Lee that I'm sure you're going to love to get into, Imran, a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got to understand, like right now they are bringing, some of the criticism is that they're shoehorning a lot of diversity into their mainstay characters right now.
Right.
But look, these were white Jewish kids creating these heroes, and they look like what they knew, which was, the white people they hung out with. So,
Right.
Simon and Schuster were two Jewish kids who were poor. They created Superman. Stan Lee, the same way, he just, you draw from what you know. And they've just been a majority of white guys running Marvel Comics as the heroes. But now there's like Thor is an Asian guy, or Thor's a woman. Sorry, Hulk is an Asian.
Yeah.
There's a
Hulk's
black
Asian, yeah.
Latino Spider-Man. There's Miss Marvel. Kamala Khan is a Pakistani Muslim immigrant American who's Miss Marvel. So they're having a lot of fun with it now. But a lot of the old-time readers are also upset that they're forgetting their legacy characters. But that's a whole separate discussion. But again, Stan was the man in the 60s that went against the clean-cut kind of superhero and brought us the original flawed superheroes. He
Right.
wanted this to be, because DC at the time, and Marvel was called Timely Comics before, DC at the time would have heroes that were gods and aliens, and their cities were made-up cities. Marvel always placed their heroes in actual cities in New York,
New York,
New York being the major hub, and they've always like the X-Men is an allegory for racism in America. Like they never shied away from this. So you got to give credit to Stan for that much for leading this, flawed real hero kind of movement.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoy the Marvel Universe so much, because it does feel more grounded, I guess you could say, and it's more relatable to a lot of different
more
people.
relatable. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, let's get a little bit into Stan Lee himself, because I know you're itching to do that.
Oh, is that what that was? I thought. I don't know.
That was our news. Stan Lee, or Stanley Martin Lieber, was born on December 28, 1922, in New York, in the apartment of his Romanian-born Jewish immigrant parents, Celia and Jack Lieber.
There you go.
There's where his roots come from. So as a child, he was influenced by many books and movies, particularly those with Errol Flynn playing heroic roles. In his youth, Lee enjoyed writing and entertained dreams of one day writing the great American novel. Lee worked part-time jobs, one in particular as writing ante-mortem obituaries for celebrities at an undisclosed news office in New York. He says he eventually quit the job because it was kind of, too depressing.
Because they couldn't fit Excelsior on a tombstone.
I bet James could do it.
Hey, true believers. He's dead.
He was a real true believer. He wasn't.
Well, he also delivered sandwiches for the Jack May Pharmacy to offices in Rockefeller Center. He was working out as an office boy for a trouser manufacturer, so he wore the pants, I guess you could say. He also ushered at the Rivoli Theater in Broadway and selling subscriptions to the New York Herald Tribune newspaper. He graduated from high school early at age 16 and a half in 1939 and joined the WPA Federal Theater Project. So it's pretty cool. He's got a pretty good little history there.
There's a theater kid.
Yeah.
Theater geek.
Yeah, a lot of people are, in their early days. His early career started, and as you said earlier, Marvel was once called Timely Comics. His career started with the help of his uncle Robbie Solomon, and Lee became an assistant in 1939 at the new Timely Comics division of Pulp magazine and comic book publisher Martin Goodman's company. By the 60s, Timely Comics would evolve into Marvel Comics, and then Lee, whose cousin cousin was Goodman's wife, was formerly hired by Timely's editor Joe Simon. So his first superhero co-creation was the Destroyer. Have you ever seen this?
No.
No.
I have not.
It was in Mystics Comics number 6. I'll have to look that one up to take a look at it. Other characters he created during the first period fans and historians call the golden age of comics include Jack Frost debuting in USA Comics number 1 in 1941 and Father Time debuting in Captain America Comics in number 6 in August of 41 as well. So that was kind of like his start, Captain America Comics, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's early Timely, and this is where in the war and superhero comics are still big, and at a time when America hadn't even entered World War II, they are publishing comics with Captain America punching out Hitler on the cover, like twice, and these are huge hits, huge success, like the Bulls in 1940 to do this.
Right.
We're not even in the war as a country, and he's like, I'm punching out Hitler. It got, and DC had Superman, Batman, and then you saw this, and you were like, what is this?
Right.
This is awesome.
Right. So my question is this, because I guess there's a little bit of controversy over like what Stan Lee is, because I was on the internet and I was like looking through stuff, and it was just like, can Stan Lee draw? Does he just create? Does he just write? What, like, who is Stan Lee?
Do you want to know what he's credited for doing, or do you want to know what he actually does?
I don't think he can draw,
I don't
to my
think
knowledge.
he can write. I think he is an idea man.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, Phil is absolutely correct.
If you read stuff that he wrote, it is very of its time, and very much aimed at a very basic audience. It's aimed at young readers of the 60s and early 70s, I would say is the majority of what he made. And I don't feel like Stan ever really evolved past that. I kind of feel like his best stuff was then.
They're very simple, very
very
fables,
simple,
straightforward fables with lessons. And he was, but this is the criticism. If we were just going to get to something negative, like Stan is great. We've seen him do all these things.
I think he's a great idea, man.
Yes.
Yeah. But past that, as much, I feel like a lot of the heavy lifting was done by other people.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that these characters are still around, 60, 70 years later, 50 years later, that's an amazing credit to him. Now, here's what he would do, though. When he was ahead of Marvel, they were making so many books. They had to put out so many books. He would run around. He would give the artists, whether it was Steve Ditko or Jack Kirby, he would give them a couple of lines of plot for the whole book. And then he would run off to the next book. And so the artist, he's like, all right, he's left to plot the book, to pace it out, to put all the beats in. Right. And then when it was done, Stan would come back in and just write words, fill in the word bubbles. Whether it matched or not, he would just make it work. Except when it came time for credits, the credits always came down to written by Stan Lee, art by Jack Kirby or Steve Ditko. And all these guys wanted was a little bit of credit, and this is why he drove away so much great talent. Starting with Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko. This is why Image was created, because of the same Marvel method bullshit was happening with the Todd McFarlanes, Eric Larson, Will Spertaccio.
Right.
And it drove them away again, in the 90s.
Yeah, and there was a couple like controversial things that they said that. Very often Lee said, I didn't know what the hell Kirby was going to give me. I'd give some pages of artwork, and I'd write the copy, and it turned into whatever story I wanted it to be. So, I mean, which is hilarious. Yeah. It was like he said it was like doing a crossword puzzle. I would try to figure out what the illustrations meant, and then I would put the dialogue in the captions. That is so crazy to even do it that way, because Jack Kirby's giving you crazy science fiction drawings that nobody has ever seen before. He invented this graphic language. And Stan is probably like, what the shit is this? Well, what's funny is like I saw some like old pictures of like just like like the blue line drawings that Kirby would do.
Yeah.
And you would see that he would put in blue pencil like the words that should kind of go with it, and Stan would just
he
go,
would write dialogue and notes and stuff in the margins. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I got something.
But Stan didn't care. Drew. He wrote whatever he wanted to, however he wanted to happen. So,
right.
So as a method, as a Marvel method, it kept the machine going. But just think about that as a creator. That's nuts. Like, who does that? You want to have a script finished before you start a goddamn book. No, they did it all ass backwards. And look what we got. Some crazy things.
Yeah, I'd be interested to kind of look at those older ones with Kirby and to see like how it flowed, like if it did, or if it was just like, I don't know, a picture of him eating a birthday cake and he would just be like, Judy, get out of my closet. Like, what is that? He's like, well, this is the story.
For example, like a little known fact about Spider-Man and that famous phrase, with great power comes great responsibility. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks Uncle Ben told Peter that. When in actuality, it doesn't show up until the final caption of the final panel of Amazing Spider-Man, Amazing Fantasy, his origin. And it's an omniscient narrator just writing it down. So, and again, Stan is kind of original, and he's kind of a thief. The line was actually has been around since like 1793, since this French convention. Winston Churchill's been known to quote it. Mm-hmm. And he kind of, whenever you hear him talk about that line, he's kind of like, yeah, I come up with that line and it seemed to fit exactly the thing. Like, no, that line has been around, well quoted for a long time. But again, the genius of this man, like Disney, to take something and present it as new as his own.
But if you're a true believer in the genius of Stan Lee,
that's right. The other thing of that, but one of my favorite memories of Stan Lee is watching, because he narrated a lot of the old cartoons. So Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends. Yeah. That's the first time I heard Stan Lee's voice, and it was awesome. Mm-hmm. You'll never forget it. You'll never forget his voice.
Nope.
He's kind of old too, so I mean, I guess memories kind of change over the years. Like you think it's
stories
one way.
Change. Yeah.
Stories change. I mean, it's one of those things that like this is such a geeky thing that people are so into that they have it like documented. Like, no, Stan, that's not how it went at all.
But there's also a lot of stuff has been lost, and a lot of it is hard to firmly point to evidence. And because all you have really are stories. A lot of these guys are dead now, and a lot of the art was destroyed. So Stan survived them all, which means his story wins. As we know,
I do feel like there's a lot of people who speak for Jack Kirby who, maybe weren't there, maybe aren't speaking 100% what Kirby would say. There's a lot of he said, she said that goes on after a lot of people die. Honestly, it's
right.
Who's still alive from that era, like Ditko.
Steve Ditko's alive and refuses to talk to anybody, so he ain't gonna get anything out. He's
very famously like a
he's like, get off my lawn now. I'm done.
Yes, the creator of Spider-Man.
He really is. Yeah.
This guy tried to make a documentary about Steve Ditko, and it was so hard to get him that the documentary ended up about how he was trying to make a documentary about Ditko and couldn't get him.
That. Yeah. Yes. He goes to his office and tries to
Oh my God, that's great. Well, I have some fun facts about Stan that you guys might not have known that I thought was kind of fun. So back in the day, he wrote training films for the Army with Dr. Suess. Lee worked as a playwright in the training film division in Queens with 8 other men, including a few who went to become very famous. Pulitzer Prize-winning author William Sarian, cartoonist Charles Addams, creator of the Addams Family, director Frank Capra, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and It's a Wonderful Life, Theodore Geisel, better known as Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss.
I thought that was pretty cool. Interesting.
I did not know that.
And I really like this part about him that I didn't know about that I wanted to bring up. He defied the Comic Code Authority with an anti-drug comic. In 1971, Lee received a letter from the Department of Health of Education and Welfare asking him to put an anti-drug message in one of his books. He came up with a Spider-Man story that involved his best friend Harry abusing pills because of a breakup. The Comic Code of Authority would not approve the story and with their seal because of the mention of drugs. But Lee convinced his publisher, Martin Goodman, to run the comic anyway. So he got that published, and that's pretty awesome back then, to kind of, and that's the one thing that I do like about Marvel. I'm taking the word Stan Lee out of it, where I do like like the fact that they kind of push that envelope and are kind of the forerunners of a lot of these things.
Stan was like, fuck you, I have that issue. It's a great issue. It actually starts with this. There's this like junkie kid on the roof, and he thinks he can fly, and he jumps, and Spider-Man saves him. And then he has to deal with his buddy Harry. But that whole Comics Code Authority was some bullshit started by Frederick Wortham in the 50s during McCarthyism when he wrote his book Seduction of the Innocent, blaming comic books on juvenile delinquency. The whole thing was ridiculous, and that's where the stupid code started.
Oh, it's a total witch hunt, yeah.
And the code finally got abolished, I believe, in the early 2000s. It had lasted.
Really? It went that
far? Did it take that long, really?
I think so, yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Well, this one's kind of fun too, guys. So, and Imran, you probably know this, but I had no idea. So an issue at the printers turned the Hulk green. So originally the Hulk was not green, he was gray. The character was supposed to be gray, but Lee writes that a printer had a hard time keeping the color consistent. So as of issue number 2, Lee writes with no explanation, he's just green. I think that's great.
Not right, yeah.
It's green. It was an accident. Just go with it.
So I guess, would that make the first issue like a lot more valuable, besides the fact that it's the first issue, but it's like,
it's gonna be it's valuable. And then they brought the gray Hulk back in Hulk canon as like a smart Hulk, as a Mr. Joe Fixit, as a nod to that, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and then you got red Hulks and other color Hulks, and now it's all crazy.
Yeah, now you can have the rainbow, but back then it was just one of those things, so it was funny. Number 4, his wife destroyed his prized typewriter. According to Lee, during an argument, Joni destroyed the typewriter he used to write the first issues for characters including Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four. And he's like, this happened before eBay, he writes. He's like, it's too bad because I could have auctioned the parts and made a mint.
That typewriter should be in a museum. That's where it should have been.
Yeah, no, but it's smashed into a million bits on his wall because Joni busted it. I
love the idea that in a different time, Stan Lee would have been on TMZ as this wild domestic abuse.
He should have just taken out the garbage that night. That's all. That's all he wanted. That's not hard.
Jeez, I know, right? I think this is kind of cute too. His wife is also his barber. As a bit of a throwaway fact, Stan reveals the secret of his slick back mane on the second page of his memoir. My whole adult life, I've never been to a barber, he writes. Joni has always cut my hair. So,
wow.
So James and I have that in common with Stan Lee because he hasn't had to cut his hair.
Stan Lee's wife cuts your hair too?
I was just going to say that. I love that, Phil. Well
I cut James. It's all good.
What a lot of people don't know about Stan's memoir is that Jack Kirby actually wrote it. Stan just put his name on it.
Yeah, Stan he left all the quotes blank and Stan just filled in the dialogue.
He's like, yeah, this goes here. We'll be right back right after this. Well, this is the part of the show where we talk about, you guys have been drawing all the whole time, and let's go to you, Imran. What have you been drawing there? I think I know, but I'd like you to describe it for the listening audience.
It's actually it's not a character Stan created. I don't know who created them, but it's because of the release of the awesome Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I drew one of the surprise characters to me on this movie being Michael Rooker's Yondu. Mm-hmm. If you've seen the movie, people, you know what I mean. Amazing performance, amazing part. And I was like, who am I going to draw? And I had to draw Yondu. They gave him his original Finn. Mm-hmm. And he's so great in this movie. Unexpected.
He's Mary fucking Poppins. That's why.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. I mean, he turns out to be like the MVP of this movie.
He does.
And you did not know that was going to happen going into it.
No, I think through the whole movie you didn't see that, and we're probably spoiling it for Phil, but we won't spoil too much for the listeners that haven't seen it. But definitely check out Yondu. But you've got a great rendition of that, Imran. Thank you for doing that. And Phil, What do you got going on over there?
I got Stan, the man himself.
Yeah.
Stan Lee, Excelsior. I just drew a little picture of him with his weird kind of tinted sunglasses and sweater, an old man sweater, and that famous Stan Lee smile over under the mustache.
That's like vintage, like 1979 Stan Lee right there, back in his prime. Another great thing about Stan, he would write the letters page and he would give out things to viewers. If you wrote in and you found an error, they would give you something called a no prize.
The no prize, yeah.
And all it was nothing. You didn't get nothing.
Yeah,
They're like,
congratulations,
you've won a no prize.
Oh, that's the same prize that we give away.
Exactly. It's just like trivia. Exactly. I would scour the books and I wanted to write in. I always wanted to win a no prize, but alas, I never did.
It's bragging rights before the internet.
Yep.
Oh, God. That's funny. Well, we want to thank you for listening and watching today's Sketching Comedy. You can subscribe to us on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/blazingcaribou and listen to us every Wednesday right here at 8/7 Central. Thanks to our live chat room for hanging out with us today. And also thanks to our producer, Ish Balderas Wong. If you guys don't know him yet, get to know him because he really does a great job and puts all of our production together after the fact. So you're awesome, Ish. Thank you so much for putting it all together. We look forward to you tuning in next week for more animations, illustrations, and stories about the animations you love. And with that, guys, our show comes to a draw. I've been your host, along with Imran and Phil Rood. We'll sketch you guys next week on Sketching Comedy.
Sketch you later.
And we're out. I play too much.
You got a little poppy. Your audio got poppy at the end there. Got
Did
crackly.
It? Well, it didn't go on this side, so I guess that's good.
Okay, as long as it's recorded on your side, fine. It should be fine.
Yeah. All right, hold on. I'm gonna end this broadcast here.